Lawrence Bishnoi is one head on the 100-head demon that is India. They start from coercion and threats. If people don't listen, they will go as far on the spectrum to political assassination to silence them. I don't expect anything from a Hindutva fascist government. People like Mr. Modi, Mr. Doval, Jaishankar, Amit Shah, and these people that are actually the root of this problem.
Moninder Singh is the head of Sikh Federation in Canada. He was also a close friend of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, who was assassinated outside a Gurdwara in 2023. Moninder himself has been subject to multiple threats to his life, and just 3 days ago, United Nations experts wrote to Canadian governments urging them to protect his life. He's joining us today from Vancouver. Thank you so much for joining us. Before I ask you about the UN letter, I want to ask you, how safe do you feel right now?
Well, I take it as an opportunity to that if you're ever safe as an activist, you're probably not doing something right. So for me, the idea that not being safe in India, taking interest in the work that we're doing, trying to silence us, to use transnational repression, assassinations, or violence in order to silence people, I think for me personally, I take it as that I'm doing something right. So I think the safety portion for Sikh leadership or Sikh activism or for any activist or any individual that believes in the truth globally, I think it becomes secondary. So I think at the moment right now, between myself, my family, and others, we know there's a risk, we know there's a threat, we know there's a danger, but it's not going to be enough to make us go silent. We have expectations from the government in Canada. We have expectations from international agencies and bodies, but most of all, we rely on our own community. I have other, Sikh activists around me, Sikh leadership around me, my own community around me, and I think that's where we gain our strength from. Is that when we have like-minded people, we have partners, we have solidarity, we have people from other movements, whether that's from the Kashmir side or from Manipur or from Palestinians to others that have been reaching out as well, that are showing solidarity. So where there's always a danger for people that are vying for their freedom and self-determination, speaking about human rights and truth, there's always that element that danger will always be there, but you have to continue on and resist even in the face of danger.
The letter that was written by UN experts, it did mention India, but I want to talk to you about this. Who do you think is behind those threats?
I have no doubt it's India. And the reason for that is I'm not somebody that is involved in any type of criminal activity. I'm born and raised in Canada. Never faced any type of criminal proceedings, never even been spoken to by the police for anything that it would be criminal in any which way. I haven't received what you've seen as a rash of extortions in Canada. So I haven't been approached for extortion money or anything like that. And I think the real reason is in July of 2022, the first time these duty to warns of imminent assassination, is what they're called, were given to Sikh activists by law enforcement in Canada. The first time they were given out was by Hardeep Singh Nijjar and myself, who we were close friends, that we got them on the same day at the same time. And 11 months later, in June of 2023, Hardeep Singh Nijjar was shot and killed in a Gurdwara here, assassinated by what Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said was agents of the government of India. And I have received 3 more warnings since then. And most of them coincide with my work that happens at the United Nations. So when I'm going there and making statements in the General Assembly, I'm talking about India's human rights record. I'm talking about their poor media record, how they use misinformation and disinformation, what the world commonly refers to as Godi media, that it's basically just propaganda, and how they use that disinformation to vilify communities in India, like Dalits or Muslims or Christians or Sikhs and other minorities, to polarize the right-wing Hindu vote in their elections. So I think in all those reasons, it finger points right back to India, that if someone is behind this to silence a critic of their government at the highest level in international agencies like the United Nations, it would be India and no one else.
That UN letter that you mentioned, it talks about a broader pattern of transnational repression. What does that pattern look like to you?
I think they start with threats and coercion, like we've seen for the last 40 years plus in the Sikh community, and I think other communities as well, most likely in the Kashmiri community as well, where anyone that's fighting for freedom and self-determination or sovereignty from India, they use multiple tactics. One of them in the diaspora communities especially, where let's say Punjab or Kashmir, you can militarily try to quash dissent. You can use UAPA and anti-terror laws to detain people for years upon years. You can use violence to silence them. You can militarize them. But in the diaspora, you can't really do any of that. So what India resorts to is other tactics, which is things like visa refusals. They'll blacklist people so they can never go home. They'll harass people in Punjab, where Sikh activists are living in Canada. They'll harass their family members in Punjab to make people go quiet out here. They will use people now, like you've seen with Bishnoi and Goldie Brar and all these Indian gangs and gangsters that have shown up in Canada in the last 5 years or so. They'll use them to threaten people, to coerce them, and eventually to shoot their homes. They threaten to kidnap their children, and they'll murder them. We've seen dozens of murders of Punjabi and Sikh businessmen in Canada. We've seen political assassinations and attempts on individuals like by Hardeep Singh Nijjar in Canada, Gurpatwant Singh Pannu in the United States, Avtar Singh Khanda in the UK. So they use these tactics, and I would say they start from coercion and threats. If people don't listen, they will go as far on the spectrum to political assassination to silence them.
I have a timeline in front of me. This is a timeline of the threats that you've received, and most of the threats that I see, they're right around when you appeared in front of a UN body in Geneva, or your recent testimony in February. 2 days before your testimony. What do you make of the timing?
I think it sends a clear message, and I think even one step beyond that, this report was written in June 3rd, 2026, when it was sent to Canada. In March and April of 2026, after I had received this last warning and I had gone to the United Nations and made my statements against India, the International Service for Human Rights is a Geneva-based human rights organization. They wrote a report to the UN General Secretary. It can be found online on their website. They wrote a report about reprisal. So individuals that are speaking about countries who have poor human rights records and they're being targeted by those countries with violence. My name was included in that report. There's a whole section that's just on me, and India is who is targeting me in that report. So there's a section for India, and one of the people that they are targeting is me. And that's where the special rapporteurs from the United Nations, I got to meet them. I got to speak.
Moninder, who in India?
Well, when they use the term India, they're using the state of India, so it's whole machinery that's behind it. And what we've heard from law enforcement officials, what we've seen from like other documents, is it will be raw officials, as you can see in the case of by Hardeep Singh Nijjar or Gurpatwant Singh Pannu, that officials from intelligence agencies in India will use what they call proxies in Canada and the US, which will be these gangs that they've set up here over the last 5 or 7 years. They will pay them, they will they'll equip them, they'll give them arms, they'll give them information, and then they'll let them loose on whoever their target is. So when I was looking at this report from the ISHR, the International Service for Human Rights, when they make the claim that India is trying to harm me for my work at the United Nations, they're talking about the entire state machinery, which I would say when the Canadian government in October of 2024 said that their chief of police, Mike Duhem, he said that Lawrence Bishnoi is behind a wave of violence within Canada, but the person that's running and controlling Lawrence Bishnoi is Amit Shah, who is the second.
Do you think Lawrence Bishnoi is a decoy, or he sits in a prison right now? He is under the control of Indian authorities. Do you think that he is a decoy, and probably the Indian state is using him to launch these assassination attempts?
Absolutely. When even in Canada, they said that Lawrence Bishnoi is actually being utilized by Amit Shah, who's the second hand to Modi. So that whole circle of individuals, whether it's Prime Minister Modi, whether it's the Foreign Minister Jaishankar, whether it's Ajit Doval, their National Security Advisor, or it's Amit Shah, the Home Minister, that Lawrence Bishnoi is one head on the 100-head demon that is India. That head can be replaced at any time. There's hundreds more like him that can prop up. That he is just being used, like you said, as a decoy to actually carry out the nefarious activities, which is by RAW, their intelligence, and by the NSA under Ajit Doval, who has been known for decades to carry out these types of clandestine activities, whether it's against people in Kashmir or against people in Punjab, that this is what he does. And he has gotten so abrasive now that he's gone into the diaspora countries in the West to attack these diaspora communities as well.
Has there been any explanation from the Canadian authorities, and have they taken any measures to ensure your safety?
The duty to warn system in Canada is actually exactly what the name is. It's a duty to warn. So after the warning, there is no support, there is no security mechanism, there is nothing that comes to personal protection. You're basically told that there is a threat to your life. Now you go figure it out. And that's how bad this system is in Canada. You would think there would be some security measures, there would be some protection measures, there would be something. But one thing that people don't know that don't live in Canada about this system is that this system was never supposed to be for political activists. This duty to warn was always supposed to be for criminal activity, those that were engaging in it. And they were both supposed to be told that, hey, some other gang might want to kill you and you're a part of this gang. But for journalists, for political activists, for political leadership, this is the only system they've had because Canada has never been a target of this type of violence in the past. And India is the first to bring this type of violence onto Canadian soil. So this is an archaic system, it's out of date. But after these four warnings, every single warning has been the same. From July of 2022, when me and Hardeep Singh got these warnings, he was assassinated 11 months later.
How did you feel when you had received the same warning and then you see your own friend assassinated? How did you feel?
Well, I think the seriousness of it was shown to everyone. I think when we got the first warnings, we also felt that maybe this was just Canadian police going overboard. We had never seen anything like this before. Nobody had gotten these warnings before. And we also felt that, would India actually come into a country like Canada and carry out this violence? We had heard about India doing things like this in countries like Dubai. We had heard about potentially them doing things like this in Pakistan, on Pakistan soil, that we had never heard of them coming into the West, in Europe, or in Canada or the US, where they've actually carried out targeted assassinations. So when we received the warning, I think we were very, let's say, laid back about it. We didn't take it with enough seriousness. But I think after his assassination, I think there's been dozens of activists in Canada from the Sikh community that have received this type of warning, and we understand the seriousness of it now. That I wish we would have understood it then, but now that we do, we know that they're capable of anything. The Canadian government has said so, but I think like at the time, it's never happened before, so you're not thinking that this is even a possibility. After it happened, though, our guard is up. We're more secure on how we move, where we go, how we promote our events, what we attend, what we don't attend. And then it took one of our leaders to die, though, unfortunately, for us to get to that point.
So in the Pannu case in New York, I think Nikhil Gupta, he mentioned one of Indian government's employee. But in the subsequent Operation Hardball, we see that there is no mention of Indian elements or Indian state-linked elements in it. What do you make of that?
I think there's two different things going on. I think in the United States, there's still a strong push to get India to be held accountable. I think they're still pressing on, even naming officers that were in the Punjab area that were helping with extortions and doing criminal activity in America. They're asking for extradition as well. If you look as far as that, Mr. Brar, Goldie Brar, and Bishnoi, both of them are actually charged with the murder of Hardeep Singh Nijjar under RICO laws, which are in the United States. They're not being charged in Canada where the murder took place. It's actually the United States government that's actually charging with the murder, and they will be extradited if Mr. Bishnoi, at least, if he's extradited, would be extradited to the United States. On the Canadian side, though, when you look at it, the statements made by law enforcement are actually very worrying. We had the chief of police, Mike Duhem, who was at the FBI press conference when Operation Hardball was announced, that the arrests were made. And he made very, I would say, irresponsible statements, in my opinion, because he's the same individual in October of 2024, sorry, that said that Amit Shah was coordinating with Bishnoi and handling Bishnoi to carry out violence in Canada.
These transnational assassination allegations, India obviously denies all of these categorically. If you were to talk to Indian officials right now through this platform, what would you say to them?
Well, I would have a lot of things to say, which I probably can't say on your show. But I think if I were to use some nice words that are respectable, I would say, get your heads out of the sand and look at what's going on. And I think you can only say that to people that actually have a soul or a moral compass at the end of the day. The regime in India, to me, is a right wing fascist regime. They personally, to me, this is my opinion, they do not care about human rights. They don't care about minorities. What they have on their agenda is a one language, one religion, and one nation under their Bharat or Hindustan banner, and that is under the Hindutva banner, unfortunately, of the RSS, which is a controlling basically the BJP at the end of the day. So I would say, if I had to say anything to them, it's basically that, well, we're not going anywhere, that our fight for Khalistan will exist until there's even one Sikh left in the world. This fight is not going to end. And this struggle for us is something that's much, much bigger than just about the Sikh community. We have solidarity with the Kashmiris, with the Manipur people. We have other groups that we're working with. But I don't expect anything from a Hindutva fascist government. Any conversation with them, I think, is a bundle of lies. And all they've done in this entire saga since Hardeep Singh's assassination is deny, deny, deny. They've taken no responsibility for anything they've done. In Operation Hardball, you mentioned it. After Operation Hardball came out, this Godi media, or this false propaganda media in India, they were all over the fact, to the point where Sanjay Kumar Verma, the High Commissioner to Canada, who was expelled from this country for his role in transnational repression, was on Indian media saying that Canada should now apologize to India for lying about transnational repression. Is so ludicrous. But that is the hankar, or the pride, or the arrogance, you would call, of the Indian state right now, which will eventually be the cause for its downfall as well.
And lastly, what would actual accountability look like to you? And do you believe you'll ever see it?
Well, I think we place our hope and faith in Akal Purkh, or in God. That so whatever we see in our lifetime, we don't know, but our job is to actually struggle and resist, to stand up for the truth, and to make sure that people like Mr. Modi, Mr. Doval, Jaishankar, Amit Shah, and these people that are actually the root of this problem, along with their Hindutva fascist ideology, that they're held to account. Whether we live to see another day or not, that's not in my control. The only thing in my control is what I say, what I do, and not let fear dictate what my actions or my words will be. But I think the ultimate justice for the Sikh people will be in the form of Khalistan when we establish it. But in the short term, Canada can do a public inquiry on India to solely look at how far has India penetrated into Canada's electoral systems, how they're shaping the narrative here, how they're using disinformation campaigns. In the short term, to understand an enemy who is actually killing your citizens on your soil, at a bare minimum, you have to do a deep dive to understand what is the reason for what they're doing. Why are they targeting Canada? There must be some weakness they see, or some benefit they see in shaping narratives and political activity in Canada. So I think a public inquiry is the sole way to understand India for Canada. Until then, all we're going to see is a change in government, and we may be harsher on India or a little bit less harsh on India, but India will continue its clandestine operations. They want silence from the Sikh community and individuals like myself. They're not going to get silence from me, my family, or the Sikh community. We'd rather be dead than be silent, because even in death, there's a sense of victory that we didn't bow down to a fascist, like genocidal regime like Mr. Modi's and this Indian government.
Moninder Singh, thank you so much for joining us.
Very much appreciate it. Thank you.